They never talk about anybody's record. The record is never brought up.
But the fans kind of know someone who just loses every match they're in. Like if you were like, Kurt Hawkins is the new number one contender, you might be like, really? Kurt Hawkins? Do
they really care? Because here's the way they treat the matches. They cut the commercial breaks in the middle of the action. Okay, so as much as we want to try to portray this, there's nothing the way they present these matches on TV, like the wins and losses should mean a damn thing. Everybody's 50-50. They never tell you what the record of the guy is going in the match or coming out of the match, and they cut away in the middle of the matches all the time.
But they've been doing that since Saturday Night's Main Event, dog.
But that's my point. So why would anybody all of a sudden now start caring about his wins and losses leading up to this? The whole thing is
if you lose all the time, you don't get I feel like you don't get the people behind you unless your gimmick is to lose all the time. You know what I mean? It's hard to get over and be a star if you're not presented as one.
I'm not going to disagree with that, but they don't do that. They don't do that with anybody except for Brock Lesnar. So why is Jinder Mahal any different than any other guy on that show? Because nobody on that show is winning every week.
Because I think maybe their thinking is, and I don't know, I haven't read any of what I've been out of loop like for real for 4 days. But I think that when you see a guy that's always been jobbed out from that 3-man band thing or whatever it was called with the redhead guy and whoever else was in it, remember?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And everything else that he's done has always been like he's been like a jobber, and he's always been a jobber. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's a number one contender for the championship. It does raise.
I'll go one step further though, right. And I think this, and this is why, and I've said this in the past, okay, that this fan base does not like guys that look good and are well built, and they're built better than their fan base. And let me make a point. Time out. I'm gonna make a good point. This angle is no different than James Ellsworth in SmackDown, except Jinder Mahal looks like $1 million. What's the difference between the two?
Well,
and James Ellsworth is over. Oh, this is what a great angle this is. Everybody's talking about. And now they're on this angle. The only difference is Jinder Mahal looks great. It looks like he could actually beat these guys up for real in a fight or in a match. James Ellsworth doesn't.
Well, just to shoot down your theory that the fans don't like anyone that's built, Cesaro is a super favorite of the fans, and that guy is in way better shape.
He's not really built, but he's in good shape. But I think this is what I think, and see if you agree with this or not, KG. And because you're a super fan, and I don't mean that in a negative connotation. All right, I'm a super mark. Like I know May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, I'm already marking out for like 3 of those matches, but. My question is, do you think the fan base of today has a little bit of bad taste in their mouth of all the guys that were just pushed because of their physiques? And when you see somebody that has a physique that like reminds you to those days, you know what I'm saying or no?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I think almost the time of that being so prevalent, I feel like has so passed in a way that I don't think it's that on the mind of the average fan. I think the older fan, the historian, you know what I mean, is aware of that. But I think for them, it's more just that.
Like that transition's already happened that now it doesn't even matter anymore.
Right. That's how I feel.
Right. Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'll say this.
What, you were going to shoot down Disco's theory. What were you going to say?
Oh, well, I was just real quick about that, making points about guys with physiques. And there's a difference. The Ellsworth story is a rags to riches. It's a Cinderella story. It's totally different than a guy. So just change Jinder Mahal to who's our boy from Queens, Zack Ryder or Hawkins, Kurt Hawkins.
They boo Cena and Roman Reigns. Those guys look like $1 million.
But in other words, are the fans wrong about what? Here's a crazy idea. What about? Sorry.
Would rather see Sami Zayn fighting Kevin Owens for the World Heavyweight title than John Cena versus Roman Reigns. They think those two would be more credible fighting for the title than John Cena against Roman Reigns.
Well, there was a time people talked the same way about Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and all these other people that aren't 6'6" and aren't 285. You know what I mean?
Those guys look.
Or how about Ric Flair? You know what I mean?
No. Time out. Don't even try to compare like Sami Zayn and Owens to Flair, Bret Hart, and Shawn Michaels. That is an asinine comparison.
I think you're very disrespectful.
It's just a ridiculous comparison. Okay, they're closer to James Ellsworth than the artist Cena and Reigns.
That's ridiculous.
They're not.
That's ridiculous.
Sami Zayn and James Ellsworth are almost the same size.
Konnan,
except Dave's built a little bit better. Am I right?
No, I think that
Wait, let me ask you this: Who is in size the Sami Zayn closer to, James Ellsworth or John Cena?
In terms of physical size, yeah, he would be closer in size, I'm guessing, to Ellsworth.
Ellsworth, he just looks a little bit better than him, though.
A little bit.
Yeah, but he's a million times better worker.
He's a world-class performer.
But I'm going to say this.
They're definitely not any, I don't think you were comparing them. I think you weren't, KG, because none of those guys you just mentioned, and much respect to Kevin Owens, big fan of his, much respect to Generico, big fan of his way back when he was in Mexico, and but they're nothing work-wise like Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart. Nothing. They're like leagues above them.
Yes.
Allow me just to add that there's always a new generation and there's always new eyes on product. And for people that are watching wrestling for the very first time right now, people that are 10 years old, 14 years old, and this is their run, their Attitude Era, their Nitro Era, their glory days of watching wrestling.
All right. Yeah,
these guys
them,
may
these are the
be
best
them for them
right now, right? But you were comparing them to them, I think, or if you, or
I'm making the analogy in that way. Do you know what I mean? They're those people of today.
Yeah, they are those people of today, but they weren't as good as those guys.
Well, let me tell you something. This is the issue, okay? And this is why at some point WWE is going to start doing this. Is they're going to start hungering for better ratings at some point. And this niche audience that they have right now, they're not. These guys are not going to draw. They've been on TV for 2 to 3 years, and the audience remains. If they would of course you can, because the way marketing, the way the internet is going, it's impossible not to make money, especially with kids. Okay, my point being, Kevin, okay,
bro, do you know how hot? And we've talked about it on the show, Di. Do you know how hot wrestling is right now? Like in Europe, especially England, it's never been like this since I've been in the business.
Bro, they just got a TV. What are you talking about? They just got a TV deal. It's like stuff wrestling's all over the place like it used to be.
Indie promoters are running in the United Kingdom in 8,000 to 10,000
how much money Rey Mysterio is making England.
Stop it with indie promoters. Guys, I'm seeing shows at buildings where there's 400 people there, and because they're tweeting pictures of it out on the internet, we're making it seem like it's more important than it actually is. They're indie shows.
Okay,
wrestling in the indie markets.
And tickets aren't $10 anymore,
Bro, that show that's I think it's called ITV, the one that Jim Ross was going to be on and WWE pulled them from England.
Yeah.
That's like as big as NBC is here, okay? And not even WWE's on NBC. They just had, and I heard this because the owner was there this week and Jeff was talking with him about it. They did humongous numbers on Spike TV, the UK version, So, bro, and these are big, major channels. It's really lit up there, dog. Straight up.
Where this is in England you're talking about?
In England, yeah. No, in Timbuktu, yeah.
Hey, well, that's a different market, but it's lit. It's lit.
But
in
it's
Japan.
becoming a one worldwide market with
I'm talking about the United States
revolution.
Disco in the United States is hot right now.
Stop it, guys. Stop it,
bro. Indie wrestling.
It's hot because it's hot because you can see it on the internet. Hey, you're trying to sit there and tell me, bro, our club on Fridays and Saturday nights draws more people than any indie show in the United States.
I love how every metric you have has something to do with the club.
I'm just saying, you're talking indie shows that have but we have 1,500 to 2,000 people that come through our doors on the weekends. Show me indie shows that are doing that every weekend are on a regular basis doing 1,500, 2,000 people. Indie shows are still indie shows. They're for niche audiences. They're for your comic book crowd type people that like to go to these shows. Guys like you, Kevin, who are super fanboys that like to go to indie shows. That they go watch the shows that are freaks for professional wrestling. Indie shows have never been for mainstream fans. They're for hardcore fans. Bro,
they draw in all types of new fans who are drawn to a cool new art form and performance, and they go and they see guys like Ricochet or Joey Ryan or Jeff Cobb, and they get their mind blown, the Young Bucks. You know what I'm saying? And then they come back and they bring their friends. There's girls at indie shows now. Like I go to, you know what I mean? Like it's not the.
Think about what you just said.
What?
There's girls at indie shows now?
Correct.
Bro, that just tells you the type of audience that this is.
No, but it tells you how the change is happening. If a bunch of hot girls show up to watch wrestling, that's cool.
We're counting.
Hot girls don't show up. Wait a minute. Let me throw this one. Wait. I have been on the indie scene in once for like real close. Hot girls do not go to indie shows. But go ahead.
I've seen them starting to attend here in San Francisco, in particular, for all pro wrestling. The demographic is continuing to increase.
You find hot girls at the WWE shows on TV. Hey, wrestling is not a product for hot girls anymore. They don't go to the shows.
What I'm just telling you is there's new people getting turned on to it.
It's like you said, it's an art form. It's a performance. It's gotten away from the principles of larger than life characters.
Principles,
bro. But I'm just once again, I will just point out and say, look at the numbers. The ratings are down. And
changed. In other words, where the ratings are today, the rating. But listen to this, Konnan.
Everything is a decrease in the size of audience and fans. Okay, so would you point to is like, wait a second, the indie shows are doing good. It's like, bro, just because
that's part of disco.
Back in the day,
it's all part of a wrestling economy.
I used to work independent wrestling shows back in the day that had just as many people as PWG does today. That the House of it's the same thing.
All right, but here's the thing. Here's the big difference.
And we weren't tweeting out pictures of the show, showing moves and stuff. We didn't have that back then.